Good to see you. Hike with Mike. What does he say right there? The unrealistic expectation by those above are unattainable. Enough said. Listen, you are dead on target for tonight because I want to get on a subject and the truth of the matter is I'm really going to end up on my soapbox tonight. But when y'all jump in, go ahead and tell us your grade level, your content area, and your state. A lot of you already know, but some of you I can't remember. We've had so many new people in here and I just want to make sure that everybody gets recognized, number one. But number two, it is absolutely my joy to know where people are watching from and just how far the reach of Teacher Talk has gone because I'm absolutely amazed. I guess I started Teacher Talk almost a year and a half ago. I started it on TikTok and then moved it over to YouTube, and I cannot believe it. I cannot believe how many people we've been able to meet, how many people we've been able to help, how many people we've been able to reach. It is absolutely a blessing to hear from you and let us know where you're coming from and what's going on. Who do we got right there? Let's see. I can't hardly see it right there. It looks like Adam. To my fellow teachers, you are finished. Get out like I did, or you're going to have a stroke from entitled students. Bro, we're going to make it. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. I thought I had a stroke at one time, but I didn't. It turned out it was chronic stress, which is kind of like a stroke. And here's what we want to talk about tonight because I am fired up. The education system the education system is in a crisis, and that crisis cannot be fixed with a recruitment plan. It can't be fixed with lowering the standards, which is what's happening in many states. It can't be fixed by a public relations department. The system is broken and it has an exploitation problem. So hang on and let's talk about it for just a little bit. Number one, the job that you were trained for and that I was trained for as a teacher has been completely buried under the job that we actually do. And all this stuff over here on the right side, the syllabus and instruction and standards, all of those are the things that we got to do. We got to have a syllabus. We got to have a lesson plan. We got to have a classroom management. We got to have an expectation for our students, right? And we got to meet the standards whenever we teach. All of those things, and we got to grade papers and we got to make parent contacts. All of those things are things that teachers have always had to do. We should have to do them. And if the truth is told, that's really what we want to do is we want to just teach. That's all we want to do is come to school, be a teacher, impact students, work with parents where we can, and go home. That's what teachers want to do. But the reality is that we're almost anything other than a teacher today. And what I mean by that is the one single job of teaching has turned into 4 or 5 or maybe even 6 jobs that teachers actually do today. Now, you drop in the chat and you tell me which one of these resonates with you, but a teacher today is a counselor, a mediator, a behavioral specialist, an emotional anchor, a referee, negotiator, and I was going to say hostage negotiator, but I don't guess we take hostages at school. We are parents. We are arbiters. We are almost anything except teacher. Now, is it just me that feels that way, or are there others out there in the teaching universe that understand exactly what I'm talking about? And in the process of trying to do that, in the process of trying to be all those things, the job of teaching has been completely lost. And I'm going to make a point about that here in just a minute. We have all these things on our plate, and yet we only get one paycheck. Most of teaching isn't the thing that we actually planned for. It's not exactly the thing that we trained for. But teaching today has turned into anticipating the needs in the room before anybody else can see it coming. It's like we're supposed to predict the future. And that's why when things happen in our rooms, the very first thing that a lot of times administrators want to know, they'll want to know, well, what did you do? Or, what kind of classroom management strategies have you been using in order for this to happen? Right? You're supposed to be able to anticipate these needs and these things that are happening in our class. And any sane person would know full well that you can't do that. And so teachers are wearing all of these hats, but they only get the pay for one hat. Now, the environment has escalated over the last several years. And I know that everybody out there knows that. And so what we got here is 68% of teachers report experiencing verbal abuse from students. 7 out of 10 is what that really comes out to. And I got to tell you, I really think that number is low. I really don't think that 7 out of 10 is the actual. I really think it's 100%. I think 100% of teachers have experienced verbal aggression and abuse from teachers. I can tell you that I have experienced so much verbal abuse from students that I am at the point that it absolutely, literally, 100%. It does not even bother me. There are things that happen at school, things that students say, things that students do, behaviors that you wouldn't believe. And oftentimes when these things come my way, I just stand there and it has no effect on me, right? I mean, I'm completely numb to the fact that students and things that happen in school, that they're actually happening in school. I'm not even I'm not even fazed by it. I'm desensitized completely. How many of you are desensitized to the behaviors that you see, the things that you see, the stuff that you endure? How many of you have become desensitized to all of that kind of stuff that goes on at school? And so if 7 out of 10 is the right number, then about 860,000 teachers across the country are experiencing verbal abuse from students. 860,000. I don't know how many teachers there are. I read one time that there was something like 3 million teachers. So you'll have to do the math, or a little over 3 million teachers. So you'll have to do the math on this, because I don't know what 7 out of 10 as it relates to 860,000 is, but that's a lot. I'm going to tell you. Now, the second thing, and this was a study by the NEA, discovered that 4 out of 5 educators say that student behavior is a serious problem in their school. All right, and here's the thing I want to say: 4 out of 5. That's an incredible statistic. What is that right off the top of my head? Is that like 80 some percent, or is that getting up closer to 90%? What is that? All right, but here's what I want to say: if there was anything else in the world, in your life, that 4 out of 5 times you did it, it didn't go the way that it was supposed to go, that would be a crisis. And like everybody would stop. Everybody would start to work on that crisis, and they would want to do something about it to fix it. Because if 4 out of 5 times a thing that's supposed to work is failing, that's a problem. And yet here we are in 2026, right? And 4 out of 5 educators say that behavior is a serious issue in our class. And yet our administrators, our districts, our legislators, our everybody that's in control of education, they just sit on their hands and they twiddle their thumbs and they think to themselves, oh, there's nothing that we can do about it. There's nothing that we can't help it. The only thing that those who are in charge of shaping and forming education as a system, the only thing that they can come up with is let's give out candy and lollipops and send them back to class, because heaven knows we can't have these little kiddos out of the classroom, regardless of what their behavior is. And I find that to be a problem, because that's exactly what leads to the type of situation that Abby's Warner in Virginia a few years ago, whose first grade student brought a weapon to school and then proceeded to shoot her in the hand, through the hand and into the chest, because we didn't want to say that this student's behavior has reached a point to where he can't be in the general education setting with everybody else because he's too dangerous. And it's unfortunate that she only won $10 million in her lawsuit. You know, she was suing for $40 million. And then it's very interesting because, you know, there was a criminal trial. That teacher was charged with 8 counts of neglect. And the judge in that case all but blamed the teacher and then dropped the charges, saying that there's really no law that governs the fact that if there's a kid that's suspected of having a weapon on campus, that somebody is inclined or mandated to do something about it. I literally could not believe that. If you saw that, let me know about it. Tell me your thoughts down there in the chat. But when you look at 68% of teachers are being verbally abused, and 4 out of 5 teachers say that student behavior is a serious issue. That's not just a couple of bad days. That's not just a few bad rooms around the country or a few bad classrooms. All right. That's a pattern. And that statement, I think, is very important, because if it's a pattern, then it's not a teacher issue. It's not because teachers aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. It's not because teachers aren't skilled enough. If it's a pattern, that means that something else is wrong, that there's a problem elsewhere. And we're going to discuss later 7 critical steps that can be taken to solve the problems that we're dealing with. But before we get to that, let's jump up into the chat and let's see what's going on, because it is lit up tonight. My good friend Adam's in here. He's always got a lot to say, and I don't care. I love it. I love it whenever we have conversation here. Kids have a rude pet name for me. The challenge is now I have to fight against a caricature golem of myself, meaning that version of me gets in my way. What is the name? Is it golem? I would be interested in what that is. So let's move on down here. Here's my friend Adam. What does he say? I went to Catholic school in the early 90s. Listen, we're PG rated in here, bro. All right. If we get out of line, they did. Now, my teacher, I didn't go to a Catholic school, but I'm going to tell you what, they wore my hind end out. They did. They absolutely tore me up. And for good reason, because because I was out of line. I mean, I was purposely out of line. I just kind of enjoyed it. I was a pretty bad kid. So here it is, John. You may be trying to say something that can't be said, but I appreciate what you do. So I got to make it clear. I am not in any way trying to save public education. My goal is to help teachers who are trapped in the public education system, either because they can't get out or because that's really where they want to be, because they want to make an impact on students. That's my goal. If the system, I think, is in grave danger of collapse, because the amount of students and parents that are taking their kids homeschool is absolutely incredible. Even in my area, I'm in a rural, and I would say that in my county, we're pretty conservative, in just left and right, one right after the other. And I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. Public education is going to be left with is going to be left with the students who have unmanageable behaviors and students whose parents cannot afford to take them elsewhere. That's exactly what is coming in education. Hike with Mike. He says micromanaging is a big issue. It absolutely is. And if you're in a district or a school where they micromanage you, it's going to be very hard for you to be successful. All right. Teachers have got to have the autonomy and the freedom to be able to teach, and they need the support from their administration. Now, that's the one thing that I can say about my district and my school. First of all, we are an outlier. We are not like most districts. We are not like most schools. We have a ton of support. We have the ability to discipline. We have the ability to do the things that we need to do to make sure that our learning environment stays safe. And when I mean safe, I don't mean it's because people didn't say mean things or somebody didn't say the right stuff. I mean that it's safe, right? Kids aren't being hurt there. Things are taken care of. And so my district is an outlier with that. So I would never name my district on here, but if you're here and you're in my district, because I know that you all troll this channel, we got a good place. We are in a good place. So don't forget that. All right, the people that can implement change are personally affected by the student's issue. They're only concerned about the statistics and their own children's need. I think you meant aren't personally affected, and you're absolutely right, Sarah Ann. The people that can make the change, they are not being affected by it, and they're only well, I would say that they're concerned about more than statistics. I think they're concerned about money because I always, I think that's the driver in education. Money and power and politics is, in my opinion, the driver in education. You know what I mean? I mean, it's kind of like in most things. That's what just kind of gets things moving. Adam, no need to be sorry, man. Appreciate your engagement, man. But we try to keep it PG as best we can. My students watch this thing, okay? I have to hear about it whenever I go to school. All right. So we got to keep that in mind. Let's see what we got right here. It's rude. Oh boy. Mm, that is rude. So let me ask you a question because I can't see your name up there. My eyes are too small. Have you taken that to your administration at all? And what has been the outcome if you have? I would be interested to know that. Absolutely would love to know that. All right, let's see. Hike with Mike. Teaching, support, and motivating our students are the most important. Don't need to follow state standards created by politicians. I think you're right again. Enough said. Oh, that's not Hike. Is that Hike with Mike? Man, I can't see. My eyes are just out. Appreciate that. So that is 100% right. Somehow or another, people that know absolutely nothing about education have figured out what we actually need to do in education. I have so many letters and conversations with former students that make me smile. Nobody ever said, "Oh, I love the state standards we learned today." Isn't that true? Nobody ever said, "Man, I'm so glad that you put the learning objective up on the board because that really enabled me to learn." And I don't know if I would have gotten out of high school if I didn't have the learning objective up there on the screen. You're right. Nobody ever said that. But you know what a lot of people have said? They said, "You made an impact in my life, Mr. Miller," or "You made an impact in my life, Sarah Ann," or "You made an impact in my life." I love that every day that you came and you were so excited about teaching and about being in class. And yep, Sarah Ann, I thought that's what you meant. No problems. It's hard to hit it with our thumbs. I well, even if I was typing, I have so many typos whenever I type, it's ridiculous. Okay, a couple things. First of all, I want to introduce you to a brand new resource. It's free. It's 100% free, and it's always free. And I'm going to drop it in the chat right here. Right there, it is. It is the Teacher's Survival Toolkit. It's free. It's 100% free. and that is always free. And I want you to jump in and I want you to grab that because don't go away empty handed. And if I get a chance before it's all over with, I'm going to drop the link. If I don't forget, I'm going to drop the link to our discussion tonight so that you can have that too. It's for you. It's just a resource and you can do whatever you want to with it. Yes, I have one student who absolutely they should be spending, but it was oh boy. Problem is I am a great teacher, but kids, I have never yet known. Holy crap. Ooh, I don't even know if I'm supposed to say that. That is ridiculous. That is ridiculous. I'm going to be honest with you, and I don't know what state you're in or what your thoughts are on what I'm about to say. First of all, kudos to your admin for suspending that student. But I think that if that's happening in your cafeteria, that your admin has to go a step further. And what I mean by that is they really have to crack down and probably make an example of somebody because we cannot have students that rise to that level of disrespect publicly and get away with it. Now, I know that whenever I was a kid, and it's been the truth all the way through, I guess, from the time that there's been public education, that students had, names about teachers that they shared um, amongst their peers. For instance, I had a teacher and her name was Old Lady Cassidy. I mean, we had some names for her, right? Those are the things that we talked about though amongst ourselves. We didn't dare say those things out loud, and we didn't dare go to the cafeteria and shout out the nicknames that we had for some of the teachers, because that would have gotten our behinds wore out, not just at school, but also at home. And there's the key, isn't it? Is that there's not a lot of discipline at the home anymore. There's a lot of agreeing with the students. I'm going to drop a link down in the chat. That's where you can get all of our free resources. You can grab them right there, and encourage you to go do that. Again, those resources are free. They're 100% free, and they're always free. Another set of resources is I'm ever expanding the reading list here, and you can do with these what you want. If I had to suggest one that you should go get today, it would be Sacred Rest, and I think it's right at the bottom down there. You absolutely should get that book. Sandra Dalton Smith. She talks about 7 different types of rest and how important they are. If you don't do anything else, or if you don't like any of those other books, grab that book. And I think we're going to do some we might do some live on that. All right. So what do these things cost? Okay, so you have teachers who are being pulled in every direction and they do everything other than teach. We are counselors, mediators, referees, hostage negotiators. We have to be parents in many cases. We're counselors, we're behavioral specialists, all those other things, and we're underpaid for all of those. And might I add that in other professions where they have to deal with what we're about to talk about, they have built in time to recuperate and to be able to reset. 7 out of 10 teachers are experiencing at a minimum verbal abuse. That's 860,000 teachers nationwide. 4 out of 5 educators say that behavior is a serious problem in teaching. As a matter of fact, most of you, if you're not already on my email list, you get my newsletter every week, and I've had a link to a survey in there, and in that survey, I'm trying to figure out how to better serve people or teachers that are a part of Teacher Talk. And what I'm learning is that even among the Teacher Talk community, the biggest struggle that teachers are having in the classroom is with student behavior. Now, I don't want to challenge that too much. because definitely student behavior is a problem. But I want to ask you a question. Is that really, is it really the driver of teacher exodus, of all the teachers who are walking out of the door? You might have read out there, I think it was Houston ISD, 1/3 of their teachers walked off the job out there. 1/3 of the teachers left. That is the most asinine, craziest thing I've ever heard of. Is it really the student behavior? And I know it's a problem, but I want to introduce you to something that maybe is uh, underneath the surface. And this is, I think, the thing that might be driving us over the edge. And it's what's called emotional labor. Emotional labor. Because to deal with all the things that we have to deal with as teachers, it takes a toll on us. You see, the truth is that teachers go into a classroom, and when we're expected to wear the hat of counselor, or if we're expected to wear the hat of behavioral specialist, if we're expected to wear the hat of referee and hostage negotiator and parent and all these other things, then that requires an emotional labor. And emotional labor was coined by sociologist Arlie Russell Horschild in her book, The Managed Heart. And it's the work of managing your own feelings or suppressing them completely so that somebody else gets to feel a certain way. All right. Now, I want you to think about how that works. You get to school and you're already dysregulated because you spilled coffee on your shirt on the way to school. All right. You walk in the door, you see the principal. The principal doesn't have it in them to say good morning. They just want to gripe because you haven't turned in your lesson plans. Right. You've had some medical issues in your life. You have a family member that's struggling. All right. And for heaven's sake, the family pet, all right, is not doing well and it's on its last leg for a lack of better terms. And so you're stressed about those things, you're dealing with emotions, and then you walk into a classroom where a kid's throwing a chair, he's cursing and calling everybody, including you, every name in the book. The kids in the classroom are frightened out of their mind. All right. And it's your job, as dysregulated as you are, to become the emotional anchor, number one, for the kid that's dysregulated and out of control. And number two, to become the emotional anchor for the rest of the kids that are scared out of their mind because the kid's tearing up the classroom. That is emotional labor. And the way that you have to do that is you end up suppressing your own feelings, you stuff them back down in the box so that you can go and do what it is that you need to do. And nobody denies the fact that emotional labor is actual work. Rose Hackman, in her book, says emotional labor is real work. It's the same as physical labor, it's the same as intellectual labor, it's the same as creative labor, and it takes time and it takes effort and it takes skill. And it takes a long time for some people to develop that skill because it's not easy to have to deal with that kind of stuff. And you might think of it, and you can see it up there on the slide. It's kind of like Pavlov's dog, except instead of there being a bell that causes you to salivate, it's a classroom that's got all their eyes on you, and you've been trained to look steady, to hold firm, no matter what's happening. That's what emotional labor is. And the fact of the matter is, that is not even considered in our paycheck. Nobody ever sits down and thinks whenever they're thinking about teacher raises. They never think to themselves, maybe we should think about what this job does to teachers and then pay them according to that. Or nobody ever sits down and thinks, the emotional wear and tear on a teacher is ridiculous. Maybe we should build in some recovery time. And before everybody out there gets on their soapbox about teachers being off over the summer or being off over, Thanksgiving or Christmas, the fact of the matter is, teachers are not off. All right. Most teachers have to work through Thanksgiving. They have to work through Christmas. Many teachers work through the summer. If they're not off to one conference or one professional development or another thing, then they're they're trying to get their room put back together, or they're doing other stuff that prepares them for the school year. Teaching is a 12-month job, even if we're not in the classroom for 12 months. But nobody ever sits down and thinks about that. What is this doing to teachers? And what makes it worse? Well, I suppose you might say the reason why we know that nobody thinks about that is because the state does not mind coming out with new mandates, right? They don't have any problem doing that. The districts in most places, they have no problem handing out more expectations or more responsibility. I mean, could you imagine how much teachers would get paid if every time they rolled out a new initiative or a new thing or a new project that they had to pay us accordingly? Because right now, what you see on the screen, that's exactly the way it looks. All right. We are completely out of whack. Every new initiative demands more of you, while the structural support for implementing those new initiatives through the teacher, they haven't changed in years. The academic load hasn't changed. In fact, it's increased because we have so many standards to meet. I don't know. Those of you who are in the classroom, have you ever looked at how many standards you're supposed to cover in a year's time? It's right at impossible to cover all of the standards that need to be covered. And I can hear it right now because the districts that come out, these coaches that are supposed to, help us and all this, and bless them, they're doing a good job. But they'll say something like, well, you just need to combine 2 or 3 standards. And, if you get 5 or 6 standards up there and you can work on them for a few days and then go on to 5 or 6 more and stuff like that. And I find that totally ridiculous. I almost find it antithetical to how we actually are taught and trained to teach. I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one. And so we're asking for more forced emotional performance without reducing the academic load to make room for it or raising the pay to account for it. Now, here's the thing. Um, I realize even if every teacher in the United States tomorrow walked into their school and they got a $20,000 raise, I realize that wouldn't do a single thing for the stress that we endure at school. It wouldn't do a single thing for the behavior problems. It wouldn't do a single thing for poor administration. It wouldn't do a single thing to curb parents that want to yell and scream at us. But do you know what a raise like that would do? It would afford you and it would afford me the ability to take multiple weekend vacations. It would afford us to, for some of you, not for me, because I'm an empty nester, it would afford most of you the ability to have some sort of babysitter or daycare on the weekend so that you could go out and enjoy time with your spouse or your friends. All of that helps us decompress. That's what a bigger paycheck would do. 100%. No, it doesn't solve all those other problems, but we're going to talk about that in just a little bit, how we can solve those. And so look at how we compare to other professions that I thought about in preparation for this. Number one, a therapist, they bill for the emotional weight. It's in their bill. And then they build in decompression, in mandatory debriefs. And guess what? They only deal with one person at a time. One. Okay? Look, divorce mediator. All right. All they do is manage conflict. They don't have to do the ridiculous paperwork that we do. They don't have the ridiculous lesson planning ideas that are passed along that we have mandated and implemented on top of us. They have built-in decompression. They have built-in mandatory debriefs, and they only deal with two people. Two. And yet it's all built in. All right, a hostage negotiator, and I specifically put that one in because I think we're hostage negotiators sometimes in the classroom. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm going over the edge, but a hostage negotiator definitely is paid for the emotional work, right? They have built-in decompression time and they have uh, mandatory debriefs, and they only deal with a couple people. They're not stuck in a room with them for 50 minutes or 120 if you have a block schedule. But look at this. Teachers, do we get paid for the emotional weight that we have to carry? Absolutely not. Do we get paid or do we have built-in decompression time during our day? No. I mean, unless you want to count the 5 minutes that we get between classes, or four, whatever your place is. Maybe you have a couple of minutes more. And that, speaking of which, I'm going to put a resource down in the chat box for you. It's called the 5 minute reset. I got to find it right here. I don't even know where it's at. That'll help you kind of deal with that. Do we get mandatory debriefs? Now a lot of districts. Okay, I want to say this because I don't want to leave this out. I know that a lot of districts that we have, the EAP programs, um, and I would encourage you to use those. However, I did a little research on EAP programs, and they're woefully deficient. They may not provide as much support as we do here at Teacher Talk. And that's not me bragging at all. It's just to say that's how low that is. And I'm going to drop it right here. This link, this is the 5 minute reset. I'm not going to type it in, so you're just going to have to grab it. All right. Because, well, yeah, go ahead. There it is. That's the 5 minute reset. It's free. It's 100% free, and it's always free. Go grab that. Okay. It's specifically designed. You can really do it in 3 minutes. I called it 5 minutes, but you can really do it in 3 minutes. And we're doing all of that with an audience, for some of you, 30 or more kids. And I hope that most of you are down at the 18 and 20 student level, but a lot of teachers have 30 or more students. That's a lot of work. That is a heavy emotional load to have to carry. And it's never considered whenever they're thinking about student or teacher pay. And I find that a problem. How is it that teachers, perhaps some of the most important people on the planet, with the responsibility and the ability to shape lives in ways that most people will never have the opportunity to shape lives? I think it was Krista McCullough that said, I shape the future because I teach. And she's 100% right. How is it that teachers are so underpaid, 28% less than other professions that have to hold the same level of education as a teacher. So when you think about that tonight and you think about that in the future, just remember that the guy or the lady that works down the road that sits in a cubicle that has to have a 4-year degree, right, makes 28% more than you do, and they don't have to put up with what you and I have to put up with. All right, let's get to the comments because it is buzzing in there, and I got to get caught up because I am woefully behind. I don't even know where I got to pick up at. There's so much that came in, and I appreciate it. Um, Goodness gracious, right here. Let's start. I don't even know where to start. There's so many. I appreciate everybody jumping in here. Just give me a little bit of time to get caught up. All right, what do we got right here? Adam, teachers are leaving because they can't truly teach. 100%. That is our whole topic tonight. Is that it's really hard to be a teacher whenever teaching is not teaching anymore. It's managing. It is in some cases. Not all students are horrible, and I want to point that out because um, a lot of times the behaviors that we're dealing with are low level annoying behaviors that we just simply can't stop. Right? We can't do away with them. How are we expected to teach the students and maintain safety within the classrooms? And that is a very difficult thing. I have, I share on here all the time. I'm dean of students at my school, so I take care of discipline. I'm sort of in charge of campus safety and stuff of that nature. And I have a hard and fast rule. I have a hard and fast rule. No student can be aggressive in the classroom, right? And if they are aggressive, we're going to deal with it. Now, that doesn't mean that we're going to go over the deep end and we're going to kick a kid out of school or anything like that, but we are going to address aggressive behavior. All right. And, sometimes aggressive behavior is yelling and screaming at a teacher and cursing at a teacher or slamming stuff down on their desk or pushing a desk over. All right. Those behaviors are going to get addressed. We are not going to overlook it. All right. That is one way, Sarah. And it's probably the best way is that, whoever the administrative team is has got to jump in on that. How are we? Oh, I think it duplicated on us. Okay. All right, here we got, I don't know, I can't see. Uh, she can't see it. Preacher something there. I appreciate you jumping in and speak on it. Yeah, I appreciate it. Amen. Thank you for agreeing with us. Sarah Ann, let's see. I don't understand how the administration expects teachers to teach despite being in a very dangerous and stressful situation. Well, it is very difficult, and that's what we're here for. That's exactly our purpose here is to help teachers get there. All right, you telling the truth. Yeah, I think so. Spitting facts says our friend right here. No lies detect. Man, that's good. I'm glad because I don't want to be lying. We start in August and rush through to be done by March, so we can spend April preparing for the state. Well, all right, you're in Florida, so we're both in Florida, and I understand exactly what you're talking about. And that statement is absolutely true. It's true. Yep. So you really don't have 10 months worth of teaching. You really have 8, and not even 8, because in between there, now most schools in Florida have a week off for Thanksgiving. We have some time off in September. I think there's more time off in October, right? And then we have, about 2.5, maybe 10 days or so off at Christmas time. And then usually most schools in Florida get their spring breaks in March. My school's an outlier. We take it in April. And I'm not sure how I like that because on the one hand, it's good when you come back because you only got about 4 weeks of school left or 5 weeks of school. But on the other hand, it's a long time to get to from January to April. It seems like mid of April. So it goes on. The money itself is not going to solve the logistics fight. You're 100% right. It won't. The only thing that money solves is number one, making teachers feel appreciated, and number two, giving them the financial means to maybe deal with some of the things, chronic stress related that need to be dealt with. That's the only thing. I need them to raise the amount of money we get to make. Isn't that the truth? The copier machine, there's always something wrong up there. Absolutely. Let's see what we got right here. I teach math and everything cannot be paperless, computer based only for that subject. He's 100% right. You are 100% right. All right. You can't do it all in Google Classroom. All right. I was a health teacher, a PE teacher, and a social studies teacher. I can get it all in Google Classroom. I don't need anything else. Right. Let's see right here. One home. Good to see you again. It's glorified babysitting and borders on corrections level classroom management. Teaching goes right out the window. You are not that far off at all. It is sometimes it is sometimes pretty hard. All right, let's see. What does Sarah Ann have to say? I can't get it up there. My favorite teacher, Madeline, definitely had a huge impact on my life. And there's the deal. Teachers are having the impact, right? Not the curriculum, not the standards that are on the board, not the gazillion times that people want to walk in the classroom to see what's going on. It's teachers that's having an impact. But the emotional toll that is taking place, or maybe you could say there's a psychological effect that is taking place as a result of the emotional labor that teachers are dealing with. And here are four of them. Number one, high stress environment. Teachers are 7 times more likely to experience emotional exhaustion in the conditions at school. This is an important topic because this is what I talk about. This is why teacher talk exists. Well, not everybody here, because we have a lot of new people joining the conversation tonight, which we absolutely enjoy. So if you're out there and you have the ability, if you're not watching on TV, and the only way that you can comment is you got to be using the app. But I'd love for you to tell us your grade level, your content area, and your state, because we want to know who we're reaching. All right. And 4 years ago, I woke up and my face had gone paralyzed right here on this side, completely paralyzed. And I thought I had a stroke. My wife thought I had a stroke. The kids at school thought I had a stroke. I mean, looking back at it, it was kind of funny, but at the time, I was pretty angry about it, because they would come up to me and be like, "Hey, Miller, what happened to you, Miller? Did you have a stroke? What's wrong with your face? How come you can't blink your eye? How come you got your eye taped shut?" Right? That's all absolutely true. Now, my doctor said I didn't have a stroke, which I'm not exactly sure that he's right. Okay, I hope he is, but I'm not exactly sure that he's right. And part of the reason why is because I I can't I'm wearing glasses, but I can't half see. Right? Maybe I need new glasses or whatever, but I'm really having some difficulties, and I've had other difficulties since then as well. And my heart racing out of my chest, along with other things like not being able to sleep, not being able to shut off my mind. My I try to go to bed at night, and my legs hurt and they jump. Right, all those things are a outplaying of chronic stress, and teachers are under chronic stress for 10 months out of the year. 10 months. And what happens is your brain gets locked in to the fight or flight mode. And this is why we talk about summer and everything else, but a week at Thanksgiving will not get your mind out of the fight or flight mode, because it takes about 6 weeks for the nervous system to completely reset back into the rest and digest mode. Not everybody does it take 6 weeks, right? But in general, it takes about 6 weeks. So a week at Thanksgiving or a couple of days at Thanksgiving or a couple of weeks at Christmas does it work. And then you think about the summer, and most of us get about 8 weeks off in the summer. Well, if it takes 6 weeks to recover, how many days did you actually have off where you were at the baseline mode? Just a handful. But if you're like a lot of other teachers and you spend your time doing education stuff, then the brain never gets out of fight or flight. And that's why we see teachers in the condition that they're in. That's why when you go back to school in August or September, whenever that is for you, if you have not properly rested and properly dealt with the issue of chronic stress, you walk right back into the classroom. And within just a few days, you feel like it's the end of May again. And then you spend all year like that. 7 times more likely to experience emotional exhaustion. Emotional exhaustion, a study of 780 teachers revealed that 76, 77% reported significant emotional exhaustion. Now, I go to great lengths over the summer to try to take care of myself because I've learned my lesson that I didn't learn in the past. But yet, I've been in school for a week and I feel like I've been there for 2 months. We've been in school with students for 1 week and I feel like we've been there for 2 months. I mean, I'm beat. I'm tired. I'm wore out because it takes an emotional toll and it's hard, hard, hard to get over it. Now, what this does is it causes depersonalization. 25% of teachers, or 1 out of 4, check out emotionally from the very students and colleagues that they work with just to survive, which is what I explained to you earlier. I've been in this business for so long, and I've been in my current position now for 8 years, and there is nothing that can surprise me. And there's things that happen on a campus. They happen on every campus. Things that happen on a campus or things that students do. Some of these things should like shock us. They should shock me. But it doesn't shock me anymore. I'm completely desensitized from it. And it's really a protective measure because when we disassociate or we become depersonalized, we're trying to protect ourselves because we don't have anything else to give emotionally or mentally or even spiritually. And that's why we deal so much here out of Proverbs chapter 4, verse number 23, which says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. And your heart is not the muscle in your chest, it is your command center. And your command center is where you make decisions, it's where your intentions are. That's where the real you exists. And when we disassociate or depersonalize or we become desensitized, all of a sudden our command center becomes susceptible to attack. Our other favorite proverb, I guess, is Proverbs, I think it's 25 and verse number 28 says, like a man without self control is a city whose wall is broken down. When we become depersonalized, our boundary, the things that we let in, the things that we want to keep out, all of a sudden they begin to intermingle. And I know that that's a crazy sounding proverb, but in the ancient days, a wall had one function. It protected a city. And if there's a hole in the wall, or if there's an area of the wall that's broken down, well, the enemy that the wall is intended to keep out can now come in, and the things that are intended to be safe are now under attack, or they can end up going places that they shouldn't go. Well, 25% of teachers, and that's just the national study. I think it's probably more. They are depersonalized because they're trying to protect themselves. All right. And that leads to total burnout, a complete loss of a sense of accomplishment, acting as a documented predictor for leaving the profession entirely. That's why teachers are walking out the door. Is classroom behavior a problem? Yes. Is student behavior a problem? Yes. Is it the number one problem? Yes. All right. But it's what that is doing to teachers. That's why they're leaving. If there was relief for teachers, if there was something in place that could support teachers better, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute, 7 of them, so don't run off. Then I think teachers, or we would stand a chance of keeping teachers longer. We'll see. All right, let's jump over to the chat because it is wound up tight in here tonight. And I love it. I I want you to talk as much as you want. All right, grade level 6 and 7. Yes, listen, my favorite grades, by the way, 6th grade is my favorite student in the entire world. Mathematics, teaching in Florida. Let me know. So let me know there. Are you a Gator, a Seminole, or a U, or somewhere in between? What are you? All right. Oh, let's see. Oh, yeah, here it is. Let's also mention differentiated learning, prep for ELL, IEP, 504, etc. Required meetings. Yep, 100%. So I read some study the other day, or it wasn't a study. I was listening to somebody, and for the life of me, I can't think of his name, but I know I want to get him on this live at some point. I would think that my audience is big enough by now to start drawing some little bigger names. But he pointed out that differentiation doesn't really work. And I don't know if that's true or not. But on top of what he pointed out is that differentiation causes a teacher to go from having to make one lesson plan to making several lesson plans. Is that your experience out there, teachers? Do you feel that way because of differentiation? Let me know in the chat. Gotta know. Absolutely want to know that. That was me this week on top of ministry, preaching the gospel, praise and worship rehearsals. And yeah, absolutely. Worn out, 100%. All right. Holy cow. What do we got going on here? Alabama fan, Florida 7th grade, roll tide. What are we going to do without Saban down there now? I'm not an Alabama fan, but I like the roll tide thing. And all we got up here is like this. I mean, at least the Seminoles got that, and the U has this. What do we get? We get this little chomp thing. I don't even understand that right there. Welcome. Appreciate you jumping in tonight. Let's see right here. Neither. I love to sing and dance. Don't take for football too much. I get into it if others are watching. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Um, appreciate you responding. Again, let me know. I want to know what's going on out there and see what teachers are feeling. All right, so you have a psychological toll, right? But check this out. And this is the portion, well, both portions got me, but there's also a physical toll. And it's documented and it's severe. Depression and insomnia. Let me know out there. Have you struggled with any of these? If you struggled with any of them, drop us a 1 down in the chat so that we can understand if we're hitting things right. A lot of what we're talking about is coming from our surveys as it relates to what you, the audience, wants. And I'm going to look that survey up here in a minute. I'm going to drop it in the link because I would like, or drop it in the chat because I'd like to hear more from you. Coronary heart disease from way too much stress, diabetes, stomach problems, and respiratory problems. All of those are a result of what we deal with as teachers. The emotional labor, emotional exhaustion, And I tell you the biggest one that I deal with, and I didn't mention it back there, and maybe you understand what I'm talking about, is decision fatigue. I reach times in my day or during the week where I simply cannot make another decision. I can't, or at least I don't want to. And I'll tell you what I do is I start defaulting. I try to default to the lowest, easiest possible decision. So let me give you a scenario. It's been a tough week. There's a lot of stuff going on. I've had just in this scenario, all kinds of discipline problems. I've talked with parents and been yelled at, been cursed at, been on and on and on, right? And then another discipline referral comes across the page. It really is going to require me to work. It's really going to require me to have a conversation with parents that I don't want to have. And oftentimes, what I will do is I will default in that situation to the lowest, easiest, maybe discipline that I can give so that I can avoid the hard conversations or I can avoid the difficult thing that needs to be done when I reach a level of decision fatigue. And I'm not saying it's right. Okay. So don't misunderstand me. I'm not. I'm just saying that is 100% what happens to me. Does that happen? Is that just me? Is there anybody else that runs into that same problem? And all of these things, this is not the result of standard workplace fatigue. Every place can be difficult to work in, right? People go through times of acute stress, but acute stress releases when the stressor is gone, but chronic stress does not release when the stressor is gone. And that's where a vast majority of teachers are. They're in chronic stress. Think of it like a memory foam mattress, and you go and you mash your hand down in that memory foam mattress, and you got your fingers in there, right? Spread out like this. You mash your hand, and then you pull your hand out. And then you look down, and the impression of your hand is still in the memory foam mattress. Well, that's what chronic stress does to our nervous system and to our psyche. Even though the pressure is gone for a little while, the damage done by the impression remains. And then we get back in it way too fast, and the impression goes even further. And then it stays even longer. That's where teachers are at. Drop me a note. Let me know if you understand what I just explained and if you have experienced what I'm talking about. Maybe you're experiencing it now. I mean, I know that most of us have only been back to school for a few days, but I'm telling you, if you didn't adequately recover over the summer, you're going to pick up right where you left off. Now, check this out. The teacher shortage that we're facing in America, it's really not a teaching shortage because there are plenty of teachers that could be, I said could be, in the classroom. But right now, they don't want to be in the classroom. They've left. And there's not enough teachers going through EDU programs now to replace the teachers who are leaving, which is, according to national statistics, 270,000 teachers per year. They either retire or they leave the profession. So it's not a lack of teachers. It's not a recruitment problem. And this problem is not going to be solved with slogans and lowering the entrance requirements. None of that's going to fix this problem because the actual problems that we are facing is that it is a respect problem. Right? And you can plug in whoever you want on the respect side. You can say students don't respect her, parents don't respect her, the admin doesn't respect her, the district doesn't respect. Sure enough, the public as a whole does not respect teachers. At one time, teachers and pastors were the most beloved people in their neighborhoods. Today, they're at the bottom rung. We are teachers. It's a behavior problem. We do have a student behavior problem all across America, every corner of our country. It's a workload problem, and that's the biggest problem in my estimation. It's the workload problem. The teacher is trying to do more or being required to do more than he or she can do and do well. You see, because it's not a matter of whether those things are getting done. All these things are getting done, yes, but they're not getting done well. And it's not being completed by a healthy teacher. And the teacher continues to degrade. And guess what degrades with that? The value that the teacher is able to provide in the classroom. And it's a support problem. But there is a way to fix it. And here they are. There are cultural problems and there are structural problems. Number one, bring back meaningful discipline for disruptive behavior. Students cannot be allowed to be chronically disruptive in a class and continue to steal the education of everybody else and drive teachers out of the business. Cannot continue to happen. Number two, role clarity. Stop forcing teachers to be parents and counselors, social workers, hostage negotiators, behavioral specialists, interventionalists, MTSS people, on and on and on. Whatever adjective that you want to put in there, stop requiring that of teachers. Stop with all the unfunded mandates that come down from the state level into districts that ultimately fall on the shoulders of the teacher. Stop it. As a matter of fact, go back, look at it, strip this thing back to bare bones, and give teachers a way to breathe so that they can be effective in the classroom. Number three is cultural respect. Teach and model respect for teachers at home. Instead, you know what happens quite often is the teacher is what gets chewed up for supper. That's what happens, right? Parents, not necessarily being nefarious about it, vent and voice their frustrations and their thoughts about the teacher, and then their kids go to school and they play out those vents and frustrations. Absolutely. We have to change that. Number four, frontline deference. Listen to classroom teachers, not bureaucrats and elected officials. They're the ones that got us into this mess. It never occurred to me. Well, I guess it did occur to me. I always thought maybe it would be good to have an outside perspective as to what we're doing in education. But the more the outsider has gotten involved in education, I think the worse it's gotten. I got to be honest with you. People like uh, Bill Gates and other people, they have no business driving education policy, but they get to have the say because they have the money. And I don't think that's right. I think the ground level teachers, just like you and I, that we ought to have not just a say in what happens, but a significant say, an impactful say in what happens in education before anything takes place. And I don't mean those things that the legislators do when they handpick a teacher to come up and talk about how wonderful this new legislation is going to be. I'm talking about on the ground, boots on the ground, teachers getting to have a say. And before we go on to these other, I got to get over here to the chat because a friend, oh, I went too far. One of my friends just jumped in here and I want to say hello to him. Hey, John, how are you? This John, level yourself up. Go to his channel, subscribe. He's got some good stuff in particular as it relates to AI and mindset. He's a great guy. Lives in Indiana where it's cold in the wintertime, although it was cold here in Florida last year. Let me see if I can get caught up with the chat because I don't even know where we're at. I'm going to start right here. Unrealistic expectations, ridiculous politics to help the person who implemented them move up the ladder of success or on the backs of teachers. 100%. That's exactly what we were just covering right there. That is exactly what is happening. Sarah Ann, the reason why teachers have chronic stress is because the issue that we attempt to address with the administration oftentimes doesn't get acknowledged. You're 100% right. However, let me come to the aid of all the administrators that may be listening because we do not blame you because we know that you were once us. We understand that above you that there are as many pressures and more on top of you that there are on top of us. That's why we don't need to be enemies, right? We need to be maybe frenemies, but we don't need to be enemies. All right. We are working towards, for the most part, the same goal. We want to educate children. We want to make good citizens. We want kids who can read, write, add, subtract, multiply, and divide, that can think critically, that don't fall for all the stupid things that are going on in our culture. We both want that. Okay. So if you're an administrator and you hear this, you will not hear us bash the administrators. All right. We know, I know that it's tough above you. Okay. We're with you. Yes. Workload is the problem. It's 100% right. John, good to see you. Let's see what we got right here. Bill Gates was in the, ooh, yeah. I didn't know that. I don't follow that. Just be green. Good to see you again. I haven't seen you in a while. So, all right, let me drop a couple things over here for you. I'm going to go ahead and drop all of our resources for you in the chat. And I want to take just a minute right here. And I want to talk about how you can support Teacher Talk. All right. We have YouTube memberships, and of course, we have resources and other things. Most everything, oh, well, most of the stuff that we have on our webpage is free. Not all of it's free, some of it's not, and that's okay because I got to pay the bills on this. I don't know how much it costs to run this thing. Yes, YouTube is free, but the rest of this stuff is not free. All right, right there in the links that I just dropped, right at the beginning is a membership link. That is for our YouTube channel. I think it's like $3.99 a month. But I'm telling you right now, we need all the support that we can get. All right. And that is one of the easiest ways that you can support us. And we appreciate every last bit of it. Okay. Because our goal is to reach teachers and to help teachers and to do all that we can to help you stay strong and keep teaching because it is a tough job. Another one that you'll see right there, I want to invite you, and I'm actually going to put the QR up on the screen in case we have, because I think we have a lot of people that watch TV. If you would like, you can book a 30-minute call with me right there. You can grab it at the QR on the screen, or you can get it in the description or in the chat box that I just put it in, or it's also in the description. Either way, I want to encourage you to do that. All right. And I'm going to tell you why. Because I got in really, really bad shape as a teacher. I ended up in a coaching relationship, all right, with my friend Dan up in Ohio. And he wasn't my friend at the time. It was just, he was an acquaintance and we made friends and he just happened to be in the coaching business. And it took me 3 years. And at one time, it was once a week. for about a year that I had to talk with Dan. I say talk. I don't. I really vented more than anything. Um, because I was toxic. I was in bad shape. And I say all that to say this, that you know it is good to have somebody to talk to, but it's also good to have somebody that listens non-judgmental, and somebody that doesn't necessarily push back, but challenges us. And that can't always be people that we know. And I'll tell you why. It can be, or it can't be people that we live around. I mean, it could be, but there's really a reason why it can't be. And that's because a lot of people, they'll take your tea and they'll spread it to everybody. You think it's safe, but it's not. And it can do a lot of damage. I've been there. You've been there. We probably have all been there. When your tea comes to me, I don't know you. You don't, I don't know the people that you're around. It doesn't go anywhere. Okay. So I want to encourage you to do that. I'm asking for you to join our membership and support Teacher Talk. I'm inviting you to a discovery call with me. Probably be one of the best 30-minute sessions that you've ever had. And I wouldn't say that one session might save your teaching career, but it can get it on the right path. I promise you that. I call it proprietary. It's our 5R. It's our 5R framework that I developed out of my own experience. And I would absolutely 100% love, 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 love to talk to you. Okay. Because you might have to struggle in this job, but you do not have to struggle alone. And that's what I want you to hear. Now, back to the solutions for this problem, because there are 7. 4 of them are structural, and 4 of them are cultural, and 3 of them are structural. I hope I said that right. The first structural thing that has to change is professional pay. Compensate teachers as the crisis management professionals that we are. We are crisis management professionals. Why else do I have to go to de-escalation training? Why else do I literally go to crisis management training? Why else do I have to be trained to restrain students if I'm not a crisis manager? If I'm not a crisis manager, why do I have to document so much information on students so that if I'm in a parent meeting or an IEP meeting, I have the evidence to prove not only am I doing my job, but that I'm managing the issues that are happening in the classroom? That may be the best definition of a teacher yet. Teachers are not teachers anymore. We are crisis management professionals. And yet we're woefully undertrained and we're ridiculously underpaid as it relates to other professionals who are also crisis management professionals. Pay the teacher more. Will it stop bad behavior in the classroom? No. Will it alleviate the workload? No. Will it do anything about parents that are mad? No. But you know what it will do? It will enable us to go home on Friday. And if we decide that we're going to take off and we're going to go to the mountains, or we're going to go to the beach, or if we're going to go some other place and we're going to do some other kind of enjoyment that costs money, we'll have the money to do it. Pay teachers more. Number 2, capacity limits. Reduce class sizes. I actually want to put 2 things there, not just reduce class sizes. But reducing class sizes is a good start so that learning can actually occur. Instead of buying the latest and greatest, ridiculous, non-productive, doesn't do anything to move the needle curriculum or strategies for classrooms the things that professionals come together and they all agree with each other. This is the way we should go. And so we invest billions and billions of dollars in it in education. Cut the class sizes and hire more teachers. Okay. Get the number down to where teachers can actually teach and not manage a firestorm going on in their classroom. All right. Now we're talking cultural issues, structural issues. All right. If you are a legislator in here and you have any say over education, hear what we're talking about. This is a fix, a plan for a fix. I would also put under capacity limits, and I'm a proponent for this, and I don't know about you, but I am a proponent for a 4-day school week, a 4-day school week. And I don't mean going longer for those 4 days or extending the year out, but 4 days per week with 1 day that is totally set aside, a no touch for teachers so that they can plan, so that they can think, and so that they can reset themselves to go back into the next week. I'm absolutely 100% a proponent for that. And I know that that would make it difficult on parents, that they would have to find daycare or they would have to do something with their children or they would have to figure out their work schedule. I know all that, but it's not impossible, right? Because right now it's all getting thrown back this way anyhow. I'm for that. And number 7 is boundaries. There have to be some structural boundaries. The workday cannot continue to bleed into the evening of the teacher and even into the weekends and the time off that teachers have. I don't know about you, but I've talked to literally thousands upon thousands of teachers. And of course, I know personally hundreds of teachers in my area, but teachers often don't like to take the day off because it takes more work to prepare for the day off and to fix the damage of taking a day off than it benefits taking a day off. Now, we all have to take one because we've got places to go, but that comes at a cost. We gotta we gotta be able to get some boundaries into the structure so that we're not overrun and so that we're not pressured into taking the time off that should be spent with our loved ones, that should be spent enjoying things outdoors or enjoying a hobby or spending time in other places or doing other things. It should not be consumed by education things. All right. Just my thought. You don't have to agree, but I bet you do agree. Now, self defense for the frontline educator. Number one, because of the system that we work in, and yes, this adds to the workload, but you have to document every single thing as it relates to your students, at least as much as you possibly can. Because when the complaint comes or when the meeting comes, the last thing that you want to do is end up in a meeting and somebody say, well, you didn't document it, so we don't know whether we can believe you or not. Is that not the dumbest and most ridiculous thing that you've ever heard in your entire life? Let me ask you a question. If I write something or if I type up something in a Google Doc and I say, on this day, little Johnny did X, Y, and Z, and I did this, does that make it true? Does it? Can't a person lie on a Google Doc? So what is this ridiculous stuff that if you didn't document it, then it didn't happen? I got to be honest with you. If I say it happened, it happened. Because I don't walk around having to tell lies about students. I don't have to. I'm a 54-year-old man. I'm financially secured to a certain degree. I don't have to lie. But that's the system that we live in. So document everything that happens in your classroom. Number 2, pre-align for support. Get support plans in writing from your admin or from your union rep before a crisis hits, if you can. Don't wait until you're mid crisis to try to get those things and then find out that there really is no support. Right. And I'm not advocating for or against unions. I just know that we all, well, some states do not have unions, so you wouldn't even be able to do that. And here's the most important part is defend with like your life depends upon it, because it just might. Defend your recovery time. Treat decompression as if it's non-negotiable, because it is. It is. Do not negotiate your time off. I can tell you this, you can work all weekend if you want. You can work in the evenings if you want. That's your business, but you'll never get all the work done. You'll get some of it done, but in the process of that, you exhaust yourself. And in actuality, you start to become less effective over time. And a less effective person cannot do as much as a highly effective person. So learn the power of enough. Learn when to say enough is enough. And I didn't put that resource on my list, but I'm going to go get it for you right now. The power of enough. And I'm going to drop it right in the comments right now, because when you learn the power of enough, it will free you up. And I'm going to type it in right there, but I got this little Bluetooth thing and I got to get it reconnected. It may even go dead on me. Let's see. And I hope I don't have typos, but there's a good chance that I do, because my fingers don't work as well as they did 10 years ago. There it is. The power of enough. Learn the power of enough and be non-negotiable. You have to draw a hard line on these issues. Okay? Now, here's what I would say to our leaders who are politically powerful, that create the mandates that we have to do. If you require the work, if they're going to require the work, then they have to account for the work, right? The survival of the education system requires us to stop pretending that emotional labor is free. It is not free. Emotional labor is like you have your teaching job over here that you have to do. And then on top of that job, you have this emotional labor job too. You're getting paid for one, but not the other, but you're expected to do both. Right? Our legislators have to balance the ledger. They have to compensate for the professional toll. You, as a teacher, need to learn to avoid invisible work, the work that you can't see. And our leaders have to build in decompression protocols. Now, some of those things you can do yourself, because you can acknowledge invisible work and you can avoid invisible work. You can't compensate yourself for it, but you can build in decompression protocols. And you should do that as a teacher. Listen, it has been great tonight. It has been a great live, and I sure do appreciate it. And I'm going to jump off of here because that's an hour and a half. I had no idea. All right. You guys have been great. And as we go out this week into our classrooms, into our schools, I want you to stay strong and keep teaching.